Good evening, and welcome to today's match for Highway to the Threemus Zone, or at least one of them. We have a lot of matches going on for a tournament that just started yesterday, very early yesterday. I am Bakashinobi, and I am joined by MaggieTheKatt. Maggie, how are you doing?
Hey, Baka and everybody out there in Twitch chat. I am doing great. Thank you so much for asking. I am super excited to be here commentating this race. Today we have Gambit017 and xPankraz, two members of the Doom Train group. As we see, Gambit is representing on his side of the screen. And it is both of their first matches, so currently both standing at 0-0. Both looking for a win here today. And I think we're going to be up for a very, very hype race. What do you think today, Baka?
I think these teams already get things rolling pretty strong. I'm definitely curious as to who our first party member is, because both the races are staying on the character name screen, so we can go and see that Gambit has one of the things we did for this tournament is, you notice in the bottom corner where Fasuya usually is, there's a blank character. That's because he's not appearing in the seed. He's disappeared, so Gambit's honoring that with naming him Wald. Maybe he'll show up. He probably won't.
I appreciate that. That's a nice little touch by Gambit there. So yeah, to just talk about these flags just a little bit more, we do have free characters on, so it's going to be pretty common to see our runners start to collect characters right away. They can hit up areas like Nasidia, the character check in Dwarf Castle, in Mount Ordeals, areas like that where you normally wouldn't see a character if the no free character flag was on. They will find characters there, so they can fill out their parties right away. However, characters are not guaranteed, and of course, as Baka said, Fusaya is off. So we may see a lot of the same characters, we may get a wide variety of characters. We're going to find out in just a moment here.
Indeed. And we have things set to 4 objectives, but as a new flag added with the most recent version of 4.1, you only need to complete 3 of them. So we'll go through those objectives shortly, but one that is static is always forge the Excalibur with the Adamant and Legend Sword. And we do see it's an Eddie Tella start, the best of friends.
Wow, is Invenerable, our restreamer today, going to have a reputation preceding him? Invenerable was the restreamer and seed roller for the very first race of this tournament. That was also an Edward start, so he's starting to get a little bit of a reputation for himself here.
Well, we'll see if the runners go around and find characters like Edge and Kane. I think Invenerable's safe. If they find more Edwards and Tella and Youngs, Invenerable might want to go into hiding.
So, getting back to objectives, let's see what else we've got now that our naming way just came and introduced the objectives to us. It looks like we had open the Troya Treasury with the Earth Crystal, defeat the Queen of the Town of Monsters, and liberate Baron Castle. So they're going to be looking for a couple of key items and then a boss location in the underworld. So nothing too easy. Nothing overly difficult. We'll see where those key items are located and what they're going to have to do to get it.
Indeed, and xPankraz going and pulling a power shirt out of one of the watery pass chests. We do have T Wildish on, so you will see runners going to different locations to pick up some high-tier treasure, and that power shirt with these characters isn't going to be an exceptional help, unless we find some good equipment for probably Edward or maybe Palom to use, because we did pick up a Palom in the Watery Pass. So xPankraz is going to go and be able to leverage that. Meanwhile, Gambit doing a myth boss check. There are no boss hunts in these flag sets, but there can always be the vanilla boss hunt of D-Mist. So Gambit is going out of his way to check for that troll early.
Absolutely, and our runners are making immediate use of Tella. He's not the most powerful of mages, but one of his most useful utility spells that he does start with is that exit spell, which our runners are able to use while making some of these early item checks in the Watery Pass and in Mist Village here, to quickly make these item checks and then get out of those areas more quickly than they'd be able to if they just were having to walk out of these areas.
Yeah, Chella is not the best character to use if you want to win fights, shall we say, straightforwardly. But if you need to do a lot of weird utility things, Tella is an amazing character to have. Because, again, as mentioned, he starts with Exit, he also starts with Blink, and he goes, and after completing Ordeals, which is not entirely unreasonable with these flags, to do rather early, he gets access to almost every spell in the game, so he can do a lot for these characters. But he's still not going to be the one to bring the hurt, so you're going to want a team to support it, and one Tella is fine. Two Tellas doesn't really bring a lot more to the table.
Yeah, so showing off the extra character with the free character check, as we were talking about, we got a second Tella. A little bit of an underpowered party to start here, but it does look like xPankraz is going to be showing us our first potential key item check, diving into Antlion Cave. This is the easiest key item check in the game, so I think with this party, hopefully it won't be anything too difficult. He'll be able to get through this without too much trouble.
I'm glad to see that you're going and rooting so blatantly for a Wyvern to show up here.
Well, I mean, I'm the optimistic one. Come on.
You're definitely not wrong. I can see just going forward, because you don't need a lot to get through this fight. It only has about 1,000 hit points, so you can just loot and get some parts. And the Assassin Dagger and the Power Shirt on Edward would actually probably be enough to go and get through a fight, as you can go and hurt things, and a lightsaber in that chest could be pretty helpful, though Cecil is not quite as highly desired this seed, or in these flags, because we have vanilla agility on. That means if Cecil's in your party, Cecil is your anchor. You can mitigate this by having multiple Cecils, and the one closest to the middle slot is going to be the one closest to the highest priority slot will be your anchor, and then the other ones will just simply be other party members. Queen Ashura is showing up at the Antlion Cave, which can be a tricky fight to deal with if you're not familiar and used to lifelock strats. And we're just going to go and see. 76 damage is not a lot of damage going on with Ashura, and xPankraz is not really set up for going and doing lifelock strats, but maybe he's got enough J-items to just throw and finish off the fight. He is on the life casting phase, so maybe he can go and get a lifelock from Remain of Threat from here.
Yeah, it looks like both of our runners, I saw Gambit pick it up as well, did find a Stardust item, and that did a considerable amount of damage. A couple more swings from Edward, and that Ashura does go down. So very nicely done by xPankraz, getting through that first boss here, picking up a few levels for the rest of his characters, and picks up the Twin Harp for his trouble. Very nice.
This is an interesting check, a long check, but if you're looking for a key item, you want to make a gamble, that's definitely a place to gamble, because it is slow to go and get to. It does take time, but if you think you're going to get value out of that and your opponent isn't, that is definitely going to be a good place to go.
Of course, it's chat's favorite key item. We see the harps coming out in chat because, of course, one of the more popular things of the randomizer is the randomized music that we get out of that check. So we'll see if we get that. We can always check it now in version 4.1. We can check it after the seed as well.
Indeed, that is a nice quality of life addition that Warface has added. And here's another quality of life addition we see for this tournament. Edge, we are on C-Relax, so Edge can show up in just any spot. He can go and be right here on the first, right here on Mount House, facing off against his nemesis Rubicant, and we can just say, yes, get in our party.
Yeah, absolutely. Hobbs, xPankraz has not checked this spot yet, possibly because it's not exactly a free spot. They do have to get through this boss, but Gambit taking down that Rubicant very easily with the party. He has a couple of Ice 1 casts from Tella, and then Edge starts out very strong, as you mentioned. So going to be rewarded by that ninja, and also going to pick up the treasure on the west side. Again, probably going to utilize Tella's exit spell to quickly get off the mountain after collecting these chests.
Gambit has looted a lot more than xPankraz, looting pretty much the entire watery path, but getting a Murasame and Edge on Mount Hobbs. That is going to give him some serious early damage potential.
Yeah, definitely rewarded for doing that check there early on.
Yeah, this is going to give Gambit a cut above when it comes to DPS. So he is spending a lot of time going around and not making checks, while xPankraz is just forging forward with what he has. So we're going to see if Gambit's going to be able to make a time on that, or if this is going to be something that slows him down in the long run.
xPankraz making very nice use of the items and strategies that he has available to him by utilizing Cure 2 potions to do damage to this Mylon Z. Mylon Z is considered undead, so any kind of curative item or spell is going to actually do damage to him. So even though he does have a relatively underpowered party at this point, those Cure 2 potions do quite a bit of damage, and gets through that fight pretty easily, and is rewarded not only with the key item that we're about to see here, but his Palom did get all of his level 2 elemental spells, which is going to bring a lot of very, very much needed DPS to that party.
Indeed, and Rune Ring in the chamber, in the King's Chamber, is definitely good. Gambit finding 2 moon bosses at the Baron Inn. The first being Ogopogo, taking out part of his team, Palom being below half health, going in, taking out that big wave, while Edge starts and just takes them out immediately. And the D-Lunars right afterwards, they're not exactly strong, but this party is not exactly tanky, and this hits rather hard. The Tellas are going down. It's just Edge going against these D-Lunars.
Meanwhile, xPankraz was rewarded from the Fabul check with the Legend Sword, which is half of the first objective. If he can find an early Adamant and underground access, he can get that first objective taken care of. It looks like he is going to be forging up Mount Ordeals. He'll get another character in just a moment here, and potentially another key item.
Speaking of forging ahead, I see that we find Tella is still at his vanilla location on Mount Ordeals today, so that's the 3rd Tella we have seen this seed. I've said 1 is good, 2 is not as big improvement, 3 continues to not be a big improvement. And speaking of not big improvements, this fight is definitely not going the way Gambit is hoping, I believe, as he did go and get through it, but it did take him some extra time as it came down to pretty much Edge, and it was a little slow for him. But he does have Kane now. He's received the hook as well, which neither of those moon bosses can prevent this from being logical access. So this could be a hook seed, and if xPankraz does not go and check that Mount Hobbs, he may be in a notably worse position than Gambit, because Edge is really going and carrying this early game for Gambit.
xPankraz found a CPU in the first boss spot on top of Ordeals. That's a doable fight. It would just be long, and xPankraz had, I think, wisely left a save at the base of the mountain. And without having found a good character, or I don't think any good items along the way up there, he decided to exit out, has now backtracked to Mysidia and picks up, I think that's another Palom, along with an Edge. And so he's now picking up a lot more power for his party. I think this was a really good move on his part.
Indeed. If Edge is a good character, but he is really hungry for equipment, so having multiple Edges in your party isn't necessarily the best. And well, this is certainly a lot of items in this shop. The Thor Rage is staying out as being the most important, as they cast Lit 1 and can be very, very helpful for certain bosses like Odin and Kanizo. We know that Odin is in the Mist Cave, so he's not necessarily important to deal with at the moment, but still nice to have on hand for other things.
And while xPankraz did not find that Murasame that Gambit found on Mount Hobbs, he does pick up 2 long swords out of this weapon shop in Mysidia, so that's definitely going to help his Edge out early in the game here.
Yeah, that's very fair. That The short swords are definitely not very good weapons, and improving them with long swords is a big improvement. They're probably going to be close to the DPS increase for the Murasame. As the Murasame, well, very powerful and giving +5 strength, it does reduce speed by 5. So it's a bit of a double-edged sword, if we so to say. But xPankraz, with that edge, is going back up Ordeals. I don't think xPankraz has a boomerang, so that edge is not back road, which is still not to his advantage against CPU, but I believe he'll be able to power through that with either throws or just the raw damage of a level 25 character.
Yeah, both of our runners now converging on this Mount Ordeals. They probably both want to power their Tellas up to unlock all of Tellas' spells. He's, as we talked about, he's okay. He does have some pretty good utility spells at the beginning with Exit, Blink, a decent cure spell, but he becomes a lot better once they complete Ordeals and unlock the rest of his spells. And since they do both have an edge in their party, at least the first spot that we know is CPU is not going to pose any problem at all for them.
Agreed. I think both these runners are going to be able to get through this without too much issue. Gambit going switching off from the black belt to the diamond armor on Kane. I'm guessing he just wants Kane to be a bit more tanky at the moment, as I don't know if we have... Well, we have an Ograk, so Kane would be able to do some level of damage, unless Kane has the even better weapon equipped.
xPankraz wants to get through this fight as quickly as possible. He darted that lightsaber at the main CPU. Possibly a committal to not take Cecil, even if he finds one later on.
Also could be thinking, I've got a legend sword. If I find an adamant armor, adamant item, excuse me, I will be going and making an Excalibur. So if I find a Cecil, that's a good enough reason to take him. Lightsaber, it's not going to be good enough, so let's just throw it and get through the CPU fight. Ooh, and the Dark Knight Cecil from behind. That's a bunch vanilla spot for Dark Knight Cecil. Unfortunately, not going to be able to go and cut this party, but I think we're going to go and just have a nice little speech today, as there's 2 Dark Waves off. The last one is coming out, and Tella and Detra is still standing. I wasn't going in expecting Tella to go and do so well, but he's hardier than he looked, standing up where the whippersnappers fall down.
So all in all, very doable Ordeals. Gambit did have to fight his way through the CPU, but it got through that fight. It just defeated the main CPU and is going to take on the attacker momentarily here. Gets through it and is going to be, I'm sure, taking out that Dark Knight Cecil momentarily as well. So we're about to see what this key item is on xPankraz' side momentarily here.
Indeed. Both are runners at the same place. I don't believe Gambit has gone and done Antlion yet, so xPankraz is up on 2 key item spots, but Gambit does have a fair bit more stuff, and does have an edge. Both have an edge the other hasn't found. Magma Key from Ordeals. This is definitely going to be some form of profitable, unless this is the ugly blue color.
Ooh, this is just a whole bunch of undead monsters stuffed into the little chamber on top of the mountain here.
They're just dying to get in, and don't want to let them leave, it seems. Edge will definitely do a good amount of work here, as he's got that flame and will be able to do some damage, but guess what monsters go and absorb fire? That's right, this little Stu, because why would they go and not include fire-absorbing monsters in place where everything else is weak to fire?
It's logical, makes sense, makes perfect sense.
Yep. And you can't go and kill them with Cure 2 Qs either, because they're spirits and not undead, and thus are not weak to healing magic. Right side, this bot normally doesn't give experience. Today it is, so those talents are going to go and get a bunch of extra experience here.
Yeah, so this is going to take a little bit of time to get through. I think the flame from the edges on both runners' side is going to get through most of these fights pretty easily. We saw on xPankraz' side, both the Lilith and the Bones there are weak to it. So it's a lot of fights, so it's a little bit slow, but not really dangerous.
Yeah, and Edge does have the advantage of being able to go and cast 4 of them, which is going to be beneficial. Ooh, I just noticed on Gambit's screen, he didn't actually reset his rows like xPankraz did, which is really unfortunate here, because that means if you want to melee with Edge every fight, you need to go and change rows.
That's a little bit more time consuming. It looks like he is going to be utilizing Palam's spells here as well, bringing out a Fire 2, maybe some magic from Tella as well here. So Gambit's right behind. It won't take him too long. He's also meleeing with Edge as well, and he's got the Cane, since some of those, as we talked about, the souls are not going to be damaged by the fighting magic instead.
Yeah, and this Edge definitely does have a strong melee, though. Another fun fact about that Murasame, it does increase Wisdom, the magic stat for ninja spells, so if you want to go and just use Edge's magic, you are going to have an advantage with that. And Edge, unfortunately, not doing much damage. Cane doing some from the back row, but it's not really working out too great. I think xPankraz definitely showed the better strategy in using the flame spells, as they were just taking out groups and didn't take multiple turns, which I think is costing Gambit a bit of time.
And xPankraz gets through that fight, powers up his Tella, gets his Magma Key, so now has underground access. So they are both essentially 2/3 of the way to their objectives. They both have the Baron Key, so that will allow them to liberate Baron Castle when they're ready. And now they both have underground access, so they both have access to the Feymarch, which gives them the objective number 3 to defeat the Queen of the Town of Monsters. They may not be ready for that yet, but they at least can do it when they get there.
Indeed, we are really only looking for either an adamant or an earth crystal, which that's a hairy place to be in, because where do you go from here? It looks like xPankraz is choosing to go to Baron. Don't blame him. If he goes here, he can go and see that Cane and Baron Inn and pick him up, or he can just go straight to Baron Castle and start working on this objective, which is hard to argue against, because if you need to go to a place in order to go and finish, in order to get your crystal in general, and it can give you a key item, it makes sense to just go to that place and get out of the way if you feel you can take it.
Absolutely. I think that he's got a strong enough party that most things that are here in Baron Castle shouldn't give him a problem. Of course, there's always that wyvern that we talked about earlier on that could be waiting around any corner. But he's got a good chance of being able to defeat whatever is waiting for him here. And this will actually open up 2 key item locations. The Odin Throne in the basement, of course, is a little bit tougher, but he could at least peek it if it happens to be a free boss. I don't think we've seen any free bosses yet.
I don't think we've seen any free bosses either. The closest we've seen is Dark Knight Cecil, who goes from being free to very much so not free. And we do see that Yang is holding down the fort at Baron Castle today. No Paladin Cecils in the party to go and trigger the outscript, so we're just simply having to go chew through the health fairly. But with 2 Paladins with the virus and an Edge with double longsword, this is probably not going to take too long.
Meanwhile, Gambit is finished with his Mount Ordeals play, so I'm eager to see what his next play is going to be, since he has already done the Baron Inn check. He's still got Baron Castle, of course, so he looks like is going in that direction. But he's actually looks like he's going to be dropping off his Magma Key to open up underground access next.
I'm not terribly surprised for this, because Gambit hasn't done Fabul yet. If you drop the Magma Key down, you can go down and do the Sheila 1 check at the same time as going up to get a full heal, and then do your Fabul check. And he can go and hit some spots underground, maybe go and pick up a pan, just get that whole thing taken care of in one go. Honestly, I think the spicy play would be Gambit to hit Dwarf Castle, or maybe find Sirens to a quick grind and then hit Dwarf Castle.
Yeah, it would be great to do the whole Pan Fabul check all in one. That's the dream if you can find it. Of course, if Pan is at like the Sheila 1 check, that kind of foils your plan a little bit there. But hopefully we can find a Pan earlier than that.
Yep, and we see that Plague is the second boss on the Baron Throne today, and xPankraz going and showing off the some vanilla, well, I don't know if they're vanilla strats. I was certainly never glad enough to go and use these strats of kill off a party member, revive your party member, because when Plague sees someone without a count, He's determined to get everyone back on the action and resets the count for everyone. Oh, and hiding the Edward as well. Well, Plague is down, so we don't get to see the full ramifications of that, but that's Baron Castle cleared. That is xPankraz with his first objective complete.
Very nicely done. He's going to be rewarded by a character in just a moment here, followed by a key item. Meanwhile, Gambit is going to be doing some looting and some shopping down here now that he has opened up his underground access.
Going to the armor shop first, you can buy curse strings in these flags, and they are quite tempting if I'm not going to go and be too forward, as curse strings can make a very, very good person, or a very good anchoring tool. And I didn't see if xPankraz kept the Sid he found here, or if he left him to just simply stay in Baron Castle.
I think it was a Sid. I think he left the Sid. I was actually watching on Gambit's side because we got possibly one of the most important checks of the game, which is the Job Dwarf, who was an insurance claim specialist today.
Well, as long as he's working hard, we can always go and appreciate that. Looks like Gambit is also going to go and I believe I spied a siren in Gambit's inventory, so I'm going to guess he's going to use that now. And here he is going and sending up equipping a Full Moon, which has the same attack power as a Long Blade, but longer animation, but more importantly is long range. So it's a very good weapon to go and pick up for Edge.
And our tracker and chat confirming that the key item in the pot in Baron Castle was the Darkness Crystal. So not strictly necessary key item for completing objectives, but very important. That will open up both a D-Machine grind if xPankraz ever wants to do that, since he has powered up his Tela. That makes that a possibility, and of course opens up all the checks on the moon.
Yeah, those are two big things to keep in mind. I don't expect anyone to be going for them quite so quickly, but if you just want to go and get powered up and steamroll a seed, Tela and a bunch of D-Machines will do that for you much faster than some Sirens will at this point. So I can see that Darkness Crystal being a very important item to play. And then we see Gambit is heading down to the land of summon monsters, going in and hitting chest up on the way. There is a trap chest in here, so I expect Gambit saved right outside this here and is going to go and reset if he finds it. A good reason to do that is on these T Wildish flags, you go and get much better loot in areas, well, much better loot in general in areas that have a trap chest in them, like that Zeus Gauntlet. Plus 10 attack and giant resistance. That is a very helpful item.
Very nice. There is a trapped chest in there, so glad that he didn't run into that, did manage to avoid that. Doing a little bit more looting now that he's gotten into the Feymarch proper, and then we're going to see what the key item is here in just a moment. Ooh, that Sorcerer Robe is really nice for one of the wizards as well.
Yeah, that Sorcerer Robe is one of the top tier pieces of, probably the best piece of equipment for a Black Mage, second best piece of equipment for a White Mage. Good defense, gives, I believe, lightning resistance as well, and bonuses to casting stats. And a Heroine Robe to go on a character that can't use it, that they don't have in their party. It's either Porn, Bridia, or Rosa who can use that. And, well, if they use it, they are definitely more than prepared to be a full melee fighter. And both our runners, having done very different things through the overworld, have come and more or less come together at this point for the checking underground, where both of them went to Tomra and are now checking out the path of Feymarch. It looks like xPankraz got a little greedy and found that trap chest that Gambit skipped.
Feymarch is not too long, so it doesn't take a lot of time if you keep a save right outside the cave entrance to come back in here and re-loot it. Gambit did save a little bit of time by avoiding that chest in the first place, but I think finding that Zeus Gauntlet definitely is worth it to reset and reloot this area.
Agreed. Those Zeus Skeletons are going to go and let your characters feel a lot of damage. And fun fact, Edge actually gets double bonus from the attack power from Strength because it gets applied to each of his weapons. Which, being one of the few characters who actually uses the weapon in both hands, that adds up to quite a bit.
Is this 2 free bosses that I'm seeing here in Feymarch?
Well, you can go and define free somewhat loosely when it comes to that water hag, because he is going to be punching your team, and you can very easily die to it. But these guards are, you just tell them to stop real nicely, or you throw some coffins at them, and they are probably not sticking around. But you have to make sure that you're getting your actions off really quick.
Oof. Yes. Gambit did go in there with 1 character swooned, and the rest of them at 1 HP. Looks like he's doing a little rearranging. It may not matter how much hit points. He is going to heal anyway. I was going to say it may not matter how many hit points his party has at this point because they may all get one-shotted anyway. He is opting to heal anyway, so he's going to do some rearranging and probably try to retake that fight. He does have at least 1 coffin that he can use to one-shot KO at least one of those guards.
Yep, and he put Tella in the top slot, so he might be going to ask Tella to throw out some spells to help him. And something that xPankraz has that Gambit doesn't is a rune ring from the Dwarf Castle. It is in the King's Room. And that is important because on this fight, the rune ring gives mage resistance, which will double your defense against mages. And that can go and be pretty big when these mages are doing 1,000 damage to Porum. If Porum had a mage ring, he'd probably be taking about half that damage. And if he's in the back row, he's surviving that punch pretty, not unreasonably. Oh, and this team is just going down very quickly. This guard didn't land the size, but is still going and throwing a lot of damage, and I don't think... Yeah, at battle speed 1, you need to be getting your actions in as often as the enemies are if you want to go and win through a battle of attrition, and that just didn't happen for Gambit.
Oof, yes. And I don't think that he has any kind of like hourglass or anything to stop both of them. Now, if Tella could get some kind of a spell off, that would certainly help. But Tella's hit points definitely don't help in that, in that regard.
Yeah, and I don't believe Tella is not perfect relative agility 1, so he can't go and take the first action in fights. Edward starts at around 8 or 9 agility, despite being level 5, and very quickly goes up higher, so it's hard to go and get Tella to go quickly early on in the siege without a curse strength.
Oh yeah, for sure. Both of our runners going to try to take this fight on. Both of them have 1 coffin. Just see it here in xPankraz's inventory as well. Even that water hag is giving Gambit trouble as well.
But xPankraz is going and has a weak queued up on his Tella and is queuing up a virus on his Palom. The weak going off, as long as he can hit that guard one more time, the guard is down.
Wow, very nicely done by xPankraz to take this fight out, and with only 1 character KO'd, so most of his party is going to get that XP. Looks like both of his Paloms pick up Quake for their trouble. That's definitely going to help as well.
Yeah, that is a big pickup. Palom's big strength comes in the fact that, aside from having a lot of good stat growths for Black Magic, he also learns a lot of good spells really quickly. Only getting a Dragon Whip for completing that fight, but you do also have that second objective complete, so xPankraz is technically 1 item away from Go Mode. He either needs an Adamant or an Earth Crystal.
Yes, xPankraz is making very good work of this seed. Looks like he's going back up and saving, and is going to try this water hag, which Gambit on his second try did get through. Very nicely done.
xPankraz might have a lot more trouble with this because I don't believe xPankraz is as nicely anchored. Yes, he has Tella in the middle, but his Tella is not base level, so not all of your characters are going to be able to go that quickly. He does have 2 attacks queued up, and we'll just need to get 1 more off, so this is looking reasonable for him to get through, but if Water Hag takes down Edge, I think that could cascade into a lot of bad things for him.
So Gambit picked up a tower key from that Water Hag fight, Between the two fights, of course, the one was required for objective purposes. That's the one that Gambit skipped for now since he did exit out. But getting the tower key means that he can make the single tower play when he's ready for it. When he's ready, he can go back down and finish that last objective after he's picked up a few more levels. So I think it's good that he picked up the tower key now, because then he doesn't have to do keyless tower and have to go back and do the tower key on its own later on.
Agree. That is something that being able to at least get some value, get a place to go and scout for key items is going to be beneficial. And Gambit is going to Dwarf Castle right now, which we do have the warp glitch on at these flags, so that will go and enable us to get technically 2 key item checks as long as we can go and cast warp at the end of this, which would probably be relying on Tella. And we see the Maga Sisters here as the first fight in Dwarf Castle. This is actually kind of terrifying because while you do have Palom or Paloms with Quake, this bot has very strong magic power and is going to just be destroying parts of your team, as we see Tella go down to 1 fire 2.
Oof. Yes, this, but it looks like the Palom does have Quake, so that's going to help a lot. Takes out one of the, not the middle sister, which is the one you want to take out as fast as possible, but taking out the first sister does help because she also attacks your party in between the Delta attacks.
Yeah, this is definitely... This gives you a bit of breathing room, but you're not going to go and feel super great if you don't go and get Cindy down quickly. But we do have another Quake coming out and attacks queued up, so not unreasonable that Cindy is going to be going down shortly. There they go. Gambit is through the Maga Sisters. And now we get to see who the character here is and who the second fight here is. Meanwhile, xPankraz is getting straight into that fight now, so we'll see what they do. Invenerable, I didn't realize you subcontracted to Dathis to roll seeds.
This is indeed a vanilla Golbez.
And a Yang as well, but Yang has said, no, I'm sorry, we don't need your no monks today. This is not the Fool Gauntlet. You had your time in the sun. Come back another day.
And already has 2 of his 3 party members down, so and probably 2 that you would want to be KO'd for this fight anyway. So any one of the other 3 who are still alive, they can probably take out this fight with the other 2. Looks like that Shadow Dragon is taking out Palom, so with Kane and Edge alive, this should be a very doable fight.
Yeah, I think Kane even has a Holy Lance, or a White Lance, which is holy damage, and Golbez takes double damage from 2 things, fire and holy. I don't think this is going to go well for Golbez. Oh, looks like Gambit is going to go and pull out a Star Veil as well. Kane is in the air, Edge is getting through these, just throwing out swings. xPankraz through the Maga Sisters quickly. Now, I guess Kane had a different whip than I was expecting. And down goes Golbez.
So of course, with the current flag set, the Dwarf Castle glitch is on, so Gambit will actually be able to get 2 key items out of this check, since he does have Tella in his party, and Tella powered up has the warp spell. So we're going to get the regular Dwarf Castle key item, and then he can also warp into the crystal room chamber in the sealed cave to get the sealed cave key item without having to actually do the sealed cave.
That is definitely something that is going to be very beneficial for both our runners, unless Threemus is at the sealed cave, because, let's be honest, that's exactly what we're all hoping for. This is go mode. Gambit has all the items he needs. Actually, excuse me, Gambit does not have all the items he needs. xPankraz will have all the items he needs if he gets through this fight. With that Earth Crystal and Luca, and what do we go and get from King Gia? A lightsaber, so if xPankraz can get through this, he's in go mode. Gambit is going to be a bit behind because he still needs to do for Dwarf Castle for the Darkness Crystal to get access to Zeromus, and he needs to go and do that Ashura fight, and he needs to go and complete Baron Castle. Things are a little tight for Gambit, but there's still the question of how are you going to beat Zeromus? I think we're going to see levels come into play. The question is, how is xPankraz going to get them? How is Gambit going to get them? And how well and how quickly can each of our runners get them?
Yeah, definitely. There are several ways to grind. We did talk just a little bit about D-Machine grinding, which I think is certainly still on the table. If they can find sirens for sale somewhere, they can do a siren grind either underground or on the moon. They could potentially just take random encounters on the moon if neither of those are options that they're comfortable with. So there are a number of options. It's just a matter of what the runners are comfortable with and what kind of resources they have open to them.
And there's a secondary siren option, as on these flags, Edge can steal sirens from alerts. You can go walk your Edge into the Tower of Babel, open some chests until you find a trap chest with an alert, and just let Edge sit there and pick off sirens until you have a big enough stack that you feel comfortable. But that does have the disadvantage of taking time, and if you don't have a pass or a darkness crystal like xPankraz has, you're definitely going to want to be spending your time doing checks first.
Definitely, and it also, I think the question comes up of how they are going to not only grind for the final battle, but how they're going to survive the final battle. Right now, they don't have a white mage, and I haven't seen Cure 3s. Now, Cure 3s, I believe, have to be available somewhere in a shop, but they just haven't found them yet, as far as I'm aware.
Yep, they could be on the moon or in Cave Evelyn. Cave Evelyn would be worse for xPankraz, as Gambit has the hook, while xPankraz does not. But xPankraz has 2 Palums, and if you decide to forgo healing on the final fight, reflect strats are a pretty reasonable way of getting through a Zeromus fight without needing to heal, because you don't need to go through the full 100,000 damage or so. You only need to do 61,000.
And xPankraz, having opened that treasury and completed 3 of the 4 objectives, does collect his crystal. So he is now in go mode, since he does have the crystal which he needs to defeat Zeromus, and he's got the darkness crystal which he needs to get to Zeromus. So we'll see what he's going to do next.
Yeah, I am very curious. They are going to Mysidia. They're launching the Big Whale now, so I wonder if they're going to change their party at all, see if they can pick up any more characters, or if they're going to just go with what they have. I imagine seeing a Rosa would be a big relief. I imagine seeing any new character to anchor with would be beneficial for them. But I'm curious how comfortable they feel with the White Mage list with the Zeromus fight.
Yes, that strategy is definitely doable, but it's also definitely a little bit nerve-wracking, especially if you do have melee characters like Kane or Edge, that you would want to berserk. Even if you do find Cure 3 potions, you may not find Bacchus wines that you would want to use to berserk your party, and that, even if you can heal, it still begs the question of how do you do enough damage to defeat Zeromus in a efficient manner.
That's very fair. Edge does have the advantage of going and being able to steal also Bacchus wines, because we don't just limit his ability to steal the sirens. I may or may not be a fan of the ninjas in this game and may know all the ways that they're helpful. But if you go to Mad Ogre fight, or pretty much any ogre fight, I think their common steal is Bacchus wine. So you can go and just pick up some Bacchus wine from all those ogres and have yourself a smashing good time.
So xPankraz has raised the big whale. He takes it immediately over to Baron and is getting out next to Baron Town I'm gonna guess that he's about to turn on random encounters and take a few random encounters here next to Baron Castle. Baka, do you know why xPankraz is setting his party up like this?
He is definitely getting ready to do a D-Machine grind, which you might think this is really odd because D-Machines are in the Giant. Well, if there's been a, because we have the can't run flag on, which means if you get into any random encounter, you can't run away from it, you have to fight it to the end. And the fights in the Giant are 1, long and painful, and 2, if you're trying to slingshot anyone, it really goes and destroys that idea. This lets you go and see where you are on the encounter chart and do a bit of encounter manipulation to get the fight that you want in the Giant. It is something that I'm not 100% on, but you can see xPankraz is walking back and forth, and he is counting how many steps he's taking. He has a chart that he's referring to see how far into the encounter table he is, what seeds he's landing on, and he'll probably take a few more encounters here after this one that he's not resetting out of, and then we'll go into the Giant. Because just like the Giant encounter chart, where you go in there, start walking around a defined path and counting steps after you get back into the stomach, you go and this will tell you how many you need. It looks like xPankraz only needs the next fight he gets into should be a D-Machine encounter. So, as long as xPankraz does not reset, he should be on his way to getting a D-Machine grind fight.
Right, if he set this up correctly, and again, like you, Baka, I don't have the step counter memorized by any means or anything like that, but if he set this up correctly, then he'll keep encounters off until he gets to the correct room. It should either be the room with the long bridge where you encounter the elements fight, or the room before that with the save tile in it. And then he'll turn encounters on once he gets to the correct room, and then the first encounter that he gets into will be the D-Machine fight.
Which is definitely it's definitely a very interesting piece of tech, because it's something that some people struggled with getting the D-Machines down the first time. This is a bit more extended than that, but it is still very helpful. Also, I misspoke when I said that the Darkness Crystal was from Dwarf Castle. I now remember it's from Baron Castle.
Yes, Gambit, meanwhile, did find Cure 3 potions. They were in, the name of the town is escaping me. It's Silvera, I'm sorry. The town with the little minis and the piggies and the little people. So he did pick up a big stack of Cure 3 potions. He's cleaning up some of the other checks. We saw that he went and did for Ghoul, got the Legend Sword, and now it looks like he's also going to be raising his Big Whale.
Can't raise the big. Well, yeah, he's going back to go and purchase some more items. It looks like. And...
we talked about the Darkness Crystal, and I thought he had it. He doesn't have the Darkness Crystal yet. He's still on an item search.
Yep. So, xPankraz is definitely in a position to go and get a lot of levels with this D-Machine grind, as you have 2 Palums and you can get 2 characters to nuke. That is definitely going to be very beneficial for your team. Meanwhile, Gambit is going and taking his hovercraft to Evelyn. I believe he is going here to go and check for sirens. As I mentioned, you can steal them with Edge. It is, however, slow and time-consuming, which you really don't want to do in a race. So if you can buy all the sirens you need, I can imagine that being a vastly preferred option.
Alicel in chat pointing out that Gambit could also be looking for a white mage. There is a character check here in the Evelyn Cave that we haven't seen. So that could be a white mage. It looks like he did just come in here to check the item shop, though.
Just finding hourglasses, but those hourglasses can be very important for going and defeating the Queen of Feymarch, which I believe Gambit still needs to take care of. Unless I missed Gambit going back down and taking care of them, as I was focused on xPankraz going and getting to this D-Machine fight.
Yeah, doing very well. Got the fight on the first encounter once he got into the Giant, since he did set it up like we talked about, and doing very well with his manipulations here to summon the D machine and weaken it and then defeat it. And I think he's been getting his life glitches off every time as well.
That would sound reasonable to me. I know that I don't believe xPankraz has 10 key items. Unless my count was wrong, he's at 9 key items, which is always the most fun key item count to be at when you're doing a big grind. But he's also at the point where he just needs to go and get experience, so I can see just do the reliable thing, get the experience. Yes, it might take a bit longer, but he only needs to go and get his talent up to nuke, to be entirely honest, which is they need to gain a total of 900,000 experience. At worst, that is somewhere around 21 or 22 D machines, which is 10 summons and then 10 life glitches on top of that. So I can see that being a very smooth and steady grind for him. And while we are retreading a bit of ground, I would like to also let you know and say thank you to our restreamer Invenerable tonight and our tracker, A Stone Kingly. Both of them we wouldn't be able to go and have a show without you, so thank you for your support.
Absolutely. Thank you to all of our volunteers and our racers. We have a huge tournament this year, being able to put on a lot of fantastic shows for all of our viewers, thanks to all of our restreaming volunteers and all of our racers for putting in all of that time and effort.
Indeed, and we see that Gambit is having a lot more success this time. The guards are going down, they're falling. He is going to discover that he has been woefully missing out on a Dragon Whip for some time, but will also have his objective number 3 complete.
So that just leaves him that Baron Castle. At this point, that should be a pretty easy check for him to go round up.
Yep, it was just Yang, the karate fight, and Plague in the castle, which was no real issue for this team. And once they are on their way, they'll have the Darkness Crystal. Gambit will just need to grind and go, and we'll see how Gambit approaches that grind. Meanwhile, xPankraz is still going in to take out these D machines. It's I haven't been counting how many D machines xPankraz has. xPankraz might not have been counting how many D machines he's been doing, and I wouldn't blame him because it's really easy to lose track of that. Did I do 6? I think I did 4 summons. Let's just keep going until I'm out of something, and then I'll be good, because I don't want to go and do an undergrind.
That's about how I do it when I do a D machine grind. I really, I think I really admire people who can actually count D machines, because I sure can't. I'm the same way where I just basically am like, oh, this feels about right. I think I'm about done.
I have a lot more success counting D machines when I'm, say, using a Thor Rage to summon them every time, and it's just, how many Thor Rages did I go into fight with? 10. How many I have now? 3. Have I missed any life glitches? No. I have killed 14 D machines so far.
That's a reasonable way to do it. I like that.
That's another reason to have Thor Rages that I keep overlooking.
We see all these spells that the Palams are learning. That's a lot of levels and a lot of spells.
Indeed, I didn't go catch all the spells. They are 3 levels short of new. That is 3 and 4 levels. That is actually a bit of an issue for xPankraz. He's going to need to get some additional experience on them.
It's possible that he could take a boss up on the moon. He's going to have to go up there anyway, since he doesn't have the pass, and he's going to have to take the Darkness Crystal to get to Zeromus. There are, a couple of boss spots that could give the XP that he needs. It depends on what boss he runs into. If it's something relatively easy, no problem. If it's something like, even Dr. Luge isn't hard, but he talks a lot, and he's got some cutscenes, so that would be a little bit annoying.
Agreed. There's also the Behemoth fights in Cave Bahamut, which are you can turn on encounters right before the force encounter tile and take that. But you really only have edge on xPankraz's team, so that could be a bit of an issue. Still, you're really going to want Nuke for this fight, because you don't want to try and do this fight fairly, to be entirely honest. My thoughts for this is you want to go and have your Palums throwing out nukes as hard and as fast as possible to just skip all of that actual Zeromus fight nonsense.
Does xPankraz have a siren, or did he get one and use one? I don't remember. I know that Gambit had one and used one, but I don't think xPankraz used a siren. I'm not sure if he has one, but if he does, that, you know, he could get some good XP for just popping one siren to get gold dragons as well.
Yeah, I don't think he has that. I actually don't know how much experience the Palums need to go from level 49 to level 52, to be entirely honest. I don't think it's something like 200,000, but it might be that. Because you do start relying on, or needing a bunch of experience. Oh my goodness, there's a Rosa. xPankraz might feel a bit salty about doing a big grind and then finding Rosa.
Oh, and he is leaving his Tella behind, taking Tella's gear, but taking that Rosa. I wonder if he is just going to use her as an anchor, or if he actually wants to try to level her up.
I can definitely, anchor makes the most sense, because you've already done a big grind. He's going to be low agility. That's going to be only get relative agility one of your characters. On the other hand, it's Rosa. She's really good. She is the white mage you want to have in your team, because not only does she go and get good HP growth, she learns her spells in a way that makes Forum feel very, very sad about just all the ways that Rosa outclasses her. Sorry, Forum, I don't want to go and say you're bad, but compared to Rosa, you're really bad.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice to go to the moon and know that you've got pretty much know that you've got a guaranteed anchor sitting there after you've done a grind, but when it's a character like Rosa, you feel kind of bad about it. Because Rosa is so good and you just want to take her with you.
Yeah, Rosa does. Rosa is, again, I don't want anyone to ever say this, Rosa's the premier white mage taking Zeromus because she gets well over 2,000 HP to survive those big bangs without going much far beyond levels you want for your melee fighters. If Gambit goes up there and gets Rosa, he might go and be in a much better position because he hasn't done his grind yet. He has a cane and an edge, so he is much better prepared for a melee fight. I can see this going very nicely for Gambit if xPankraz... without Nuke, I think xPankraz is going to be in trouble, so he's either going to be grinding more on here, which will give Gambit some time to catch up, or he's going to be grinding some low-level Zeromus fights, which are going to be very dangerous.
And now Gambit is actually raising his big wheel, has completed Baron Castle, so has gotten both his Darkness Crystal and his Crystal, since that was the third objective that he completed. So he's also in go mode, and now we'll see where he goes once he gets his big wheel, if he is going to do a D-Machine grind like xPankraz did, or if he's going to go somewhere else to do his grinding.
Ooh, and we see that he was trying to kill off his Eddie, which... Eddie is a very, very poor anchor because he gains agility very, very quickly. So, at the levels Eddie's at, unless Eddie is at something like 28 agility, I don't think there's going to be big benefit to killing him off.
So Gambit is entering the Giant. Looks like he's going to be making a similar play that xPankraz did. I don't know that he did the manipulation, though. There is an alternate way to try to do the D-Machine grind, and that is to simply go to the save room and drop a save, and then reset until you get the correct fight on the first encounter.
that is definitely a harder thing to go, and it's definitely less optimal, but I have practiced myself, so I'm not 100% certain how to use this new manipulation.
Yeah, if you're not familiar with the new manipulation and you're maybe feeling a little bit behind, and you just want to try to grind it's certainly an option. You kind of just want to hope that you get the D-Machine grind early. The other thing that he could be doing here is he might be peeking the boss, because this boss spot gives a lot of XP.
That's very fair. If it's a free boss like Typo Guards or something, this is going to be a lot of experience. That's Leviathan. That's not the worst fight, but not going to be free. Not something you can go and just weak with Tele and abuse with life glitches or even life 2 potentially.
So he did peek the boss, decided to nope out of that Leviathan, now has turned on encounters and reset, and is looking for the D-Machine fight, and is just going to reset until he gets the D-Machine fight on the first encounter, since he can't run, as we talked about, the can't run flag is on, so he won't be able to run until he gets the correct encounter.
Yep, it looks like Gambit is going to be doing a bit of fishing for right now. Meanwhile, xPankraz is going and fighting Optimum on the moon and has completed the fight, but only with Edge and 1 Palom up, so the Palom learned Medio, but that's still a little bit a ways from Nuke. Did find a Masamune and a Silver Apple, neither of which are key items, which does not get to put xPankraz up to that mystical 10 key item count, which I imagine is more than slightly frustrating. He just reset.
Did he reset instead of taking that XP? Did he reset after completing the fight?
I believe so, because his bottom Palom is the one who survived. His bottom Palom is at less HP than the top Palom. And it was the bottom Palom who learned Medio, so they should be at higher experience unless I'm mistaken. I wonder if they saw that they didn't have anything they needed to go and finish the fight, and this is looking ugly for xPankraz. He only has... Gambit is the one who found hourglasses for sale in Nasidia, or excuse me, in Evelyn. So he has a stack of them he can use on any fight he wants, but xPankraz only had the one that he already used, so this is something that looking a little dicey for him. He is re-equipping his forms with defensive equipment to see if he can make them a bit more sturdy, but he does seem to be having a little bit of trouble just getting going.
Yeah, this is a bit of a dicey spot for xPankraz. And this is, I've seen this happen before, and it's definitely happened to me before too, where like you get your go mode pretty early, and then you rush to the moon, maybe without having all the equipment or all the items that you need. So he doesn't have life potions. I don't know that he has a lot of cure potions. It's really easy to do when you get that early go mode and you just want to go.
Oh yeah, these flags are very good at getting you going, getting you early go mode, and you're just, I'm not prepared. I have life potions, star veils. How am I going to grind? Okay, this seems like enough D-Machines. Let's get, no, this is not enough. It is very easy to get very flustered on these, because it is. We're an hour into the seed. Both the runners have their crystal, a path to Zeromus, and I'm pretty sure both are thinking, this is open really early. I need to be going. I need to be fighting Zeromus now. I need to get through this. We just have to go and make this work.
And even with Gambit, as we said, with him kind of rushing into the giant, he needed a way to grind. He maybe just didn't know of a better way to grind, so he rushed in there to hope to find the D-Machine fight on his first encounter and just reset out until he did. It took him too long. He had to reset several times, but he wasn't there for 10 minutes or anything. He's in the D-Machine fight now. I didn't see exactly how many times he had to reset out to get this fight, but he's in it now and executing it very well. So he's catching up now to xPankraz and narrowing this kind of gap that xPankraz had in a lead that he had taken originally in finding the crystal first.
Yep, xPankraz, both his pounds are at 50. They need 2 more levels to go and get nuked. He's getting closer. He is making progress in there. Getting these single gold Ryu fights will definitely go and let him get through, like, help push him through to that bit of experience as he can get a week off. He can then follow up with another spell to finish it off. That's fine, but it is definitely less efficient than the D Machine grind that he had previously and was not able to go and get to the full levels he needed. And if Gambit can go and pull that off, Gambit might have a chance to come back, though. Gambit didn't pick up Rosa, which means he can't go and do melee strats. He has to do either hybrid strats and hope that he can just push out enough damage to not get a big bang, or at least not get a full powered big bang, or do some very precise reflex strats. He does have Tier 3s, which will let him do reflex strats without too much trouble, but with just one new caster, it will be slower than xPankraz's.
I saw at least one Bacchus coin in Gambit's inventory, and if he has that, and if he decides to keep Tella, he'll be able to at least berserk his 2 main melee characters, Kain and Edge.
Yep, he'll be able to get them berserk for the start of the fight, so that hybrid is definitely not an unviable strategy. It can just be, well, it can be a little scary. Ooh, and Gambit went for a double life glitch, but didn't get the timing right as Callum took a little too long on that ice 2, and Kain and Edge skipped in front of him.
Yeah, the timing on that, it's really nice when you can get a double life glitch by casting a spell like that, but it can be a little bit tricky, especially when you've got that, like, Kain and Edge are both very fast characters.
Yeah, you really have to know exactly when your turns are going to be hitting, how your agility's lined up. And it is, it's tricky. It is definitely not an easy thing to do, especially when you're trying to go and do the grind quickly because you feel you're behind.
So xPankraz has got both his Edward and his Rosa down at this point, but he's been able to keep Edge and his 2 Palums up, and I think that's really his main party at this point. It looks like both of his Palums have gotten to 52, which is the level that they need for nuke. He's turning off random encounters, going back to save, and is now setting up for his Zeromus fight.
Yep, and he's got Edge in the top slot, which is interesting. I wonder if he's going to go and be hiding and showing his Edward in the top slot. I'm curious if he's going to be using the Edward as the reflect point for his Zeromus fight, which is going to be interesting because you can hide Edward to go and keep him safe, but you'll also go and need to go and lose turns for Edward to come back and show again, which is awkward. And speaking of awkward, Gambit also did not get all the D machines to get Palom on his Palom to nuke, but he does have 2 melee fighters. Maybe he's just going to push on that. I am uncertain as to how this fight is, what Gambit's current plan is.
It would be much easier, I think, for him to do it with 2 melee characters and just reflecting like level 3 spells, as opposed to xPankraz's party with 2 Palums and 1 melee character. But I think we've got a question we have to ask Baka. There's a bunch of emotes coming out in chat. What does this mean? Do you have a question you want to ask?
I believe I do. Because after all, we have a randomizer here. We can't go and leave anything vanilla. We can't go and leave things just plain and boring. We can't go and bring Zeromus into the boss pool like we do with all the other bosses. He's a bit too strong, a bit too complicated, a bit too imposing. So instead, we like to give him a little makeover. And chat, with your Z flags out in chat, let's ask, whose butt are we kicking tonight?
The wonderful Scala Kitty, of course, designs most of the Z sprites that we see at the end of all of these races. And it looks like Mosa on xPankraz's side is getting ready to throw this crystal, so we are about to see Zeromus' true form.
Yes, which one of the over 400 sprites in this randomizer are we going to see today?
Kamlanomus.
Not someone I'm familiar with, but I will go and defer to Scala or chat if they can go. Kamlanut from Final Fantasy XI.
I played Final Fantasy XI, but I don't know if I played this expansion because I don't recognize this character right off the top of my head. But as always, Scala has done a fantastic job rendering all of these beautiful Z sprites that we use for Zeromus.
I played Final Fantasy XI, but I didn't get out of Crawler's Nest.
Those tank crawlers. That poison.
On the bright side, I played a thief, so I at least felt somewhat wanted.
So Gambit has the option now to pick up this Rosa, and it looks like he is going to pass on that Rosa. He is happy with the party that he ground up in the Giant Battle.
Well, I'll be curious to see how he chooses to approach this, because this is definitely going to be a bit of a fight. Rosa is definitely a good agility for an anchor. I think Gambit did go and have his going into the D Machine fight. His Edward was still at base level, so if he was able to kill him off, he might still be there and still be a reasonable anchor. But these are going to be some very tight Zeromus' fight, and Edward goes down. I believe that was one of his anchors. So this is a Starveil target, which is very, very, very unfortunate. As you need to go and be coming out that damage for the Zeromus fight. You need to go and get through to that $40,000 HP point, and then just go and reflect another 20,000 damage. You don't want to go and have to stop and take turns to refill, because that gets you closer to another big bang, which maybe you can nerf, but if you have nerf come out, you have to go take another nuke to the face, which can be very scary if it hits your non-Starveil target. And you have to do it with something other than direct damage. This could be a very scary fight right now.
I am sure that xPankraz is very nervous right now.
I would certainly be sweating bullets at this point. Meanwhile, Gambit has started out encounters and is getting himself prepared for doing more fights. He has a stack of hourglasses, so he'll have a safer drawing, but xPankraz is in the Zeromus fight, but he has gotten through it. He is done. Kamlanomus falls, and we have a first place finisher with a time of 1 hour, 10 minutes, and 7 seconds. GG to xPankraz.
That was amazing. That last Palom survived with 30 hit points after the full-powered Big Bang took a tick, so actually ends the fight with 28 hit points remaining. GG to xPankraz, winning his first match of Highway to the Threemus zone.
And let's see if we can get him in here for an interview. I see. Our Restreamer has mentioned that he's gone to show off one of the new features of Free Enterprise with the most recent update. We can go and get the Twin Harp music after beating Zeromus without having Twin Harp in our inventory. Because once you have a save file with completing Zeromus after you get to a certain point of the credits, you can go to a different location to hear the music. But that is a nail-biting fight. That's very easy to go and just have a roll go a bit too high on one of the Big Bang rolls. Go a bit too high and take you out. So let's see if we can go and hear some of this music. I believe xPankraz is being very, very relieved of a lot of stress at this moment, as they're still on their finale screen. Meanwhile, Gambit is going and reordering his party and still needs to get some experience on his Palom to get Newt to be able to go into his Zeromus fight, I think.
Yes, looks like Gambit. I'm not sure if he's taking this fight intentionally. He looked like he was heading down toward the core. He may have just taken this accidentally if he forgot to turn off random encounters. But he may still be looking for a few more extra levels for the rest of his party. xPankraz now going on to the credits screen. I don't blame him at all that he had to take a moment to take a breath after that Zeromus fight. That was definitely a very intense Zeromus fight. One of the more intense Z fights that I've seen in quite a while.
I agree. When you go and end your Zeromus fight with less HP than the HP that the lowest HP characters in the game starts with for your entire team, I can see going and taking a bit of a breather after that point. But those are flex strats. They definitely do a lot of work. 2 Black Mages casting Nuke is a very reliable way of taking care of Zeromus. Kind of heart-pounding sometimes, but still a pretty good, reliable way to win.
And chat pointing out, too, that xPankraz didn't even have Cure 3 potions. He was throwing Cure 2 potions with his edge to bring at least that one Palom that survived back up to full HP. Palom doesn't have a lot of HP to begin with, so was able to do it with the Cure 2s, but yeah, definitely a nail-biter there.
And meanwhile, we have Gambit going into his Zeromus fight. He does not... I don't believe he has Nuke on his Palom. I think he's still a bit shy, but we're going to see how this fight goes for Gambit. It is rude that the only white mage in the siege showed up after both our runners did their grind, so definitely not your favorite way to go and do a Baron fight, or do a Zeromus fight.
Eddie throwing the crystal here, and we're Gambit is about to see Zeromus' true form for the first time.
Always fun to go and see that. It's seeing the new sprites is always the exciting thing of all of these seeds. It's always fun to see the unique things that come out with just this randomizer, and now we see that xPankraz is loading up a save, and will be showing us how to go and see, or how to go and hear the Trinheart music after you have defeated Zeromus. And it is by going to Castle Troya, going to where Bedward is, and speaking to his harp. As once you have beaten Zeromus once and gotten far enough into the credits, Boardface lets the SRAM go and shows, have a flag turned on that lets us start playing music, which I will shut up for us to listen to. And that is some nice Linus theme from Final Fantasy V. And now I believe we are joined by xPankraz. xPankraz, congratulations on your first place finish. How are you feeling after that race?
Thank you very much. The nerves are still wearing off, but feeling pretty good.
I can imagine. That is an HP total to have on your final team. That's one you should go and share. You should go and keep that as a point of pride, to be entirely honest.
Oh yeah, what was it, 60, I think, after the Big Bang?
30.
30, even better.
Callum was channeling his inner child Rydia today.
And that's all you need sometimes, even if it's a nail biter.
Yeah, what were you expecting when you saw these objectives? Were you expecting to go and be in as early go mode as you did? Were you expecting to go and have to do some hunting? What were your thoughts when you saw the objectives come up for the siege?
I had two general ideas of how it might pan out, which is either the super jet or a very quick one that we had here, where everything's no moon required and so on. And then I had the other path planned out for if, like, the Earth crystal is behind some chain on the moon that you have to chase down, but there's no Baron key in sight, etc., etc.
Oh yeah.
Once I saw the Baron key as a starting item, leaned a little more towards the first one, but it will still work.
Do you have a preference between those two paths, which one you prefer? Because obviously with the jet seed like we saw today, you get your crystal really early, but then you have to figure out both how to get to the moon, which wasn't too difficult in this seed, but then also how to get your levels. Whereas when you have the longer, more drawn out seeds, you usually don't have to worry about levels as much. So what do you find to be a little bit more to your playing style preference?
I feel I like the quicker ones a little bit better, even though diving the moon can get you a whole bunch of XP really quick, especially with a couple free bosses or gauntlets scattered around. With these flag sets, it's really easy to find other sources of XP, I feel. You know, you have the D machine grinds, the tried and true, or there's so many edges lying around usually that you can always steal sirens. I feel there's a lot of ways to get levels really quickly or really efficiently, and if there is a quick seed, then you can usually do something to get to the seed and ultimately beat it.
That makes a lot of sense. It's I can certainly see those long scenes being very anxiety-inducing when it just comes down to you need to find an item somewhere and you have a lot of checks. So
yeah, that came into play a bit here, where I found once the darkness crystal was found in the Baron throne or wherever it was, that had everything open to me and two items that could ultimately give me the crystal and get Goma. I had no clue where either of them.
yeah, that definitely is a very, very reasonable thing when you see a darkness crystal that early. Were you ever tempted to go and say, heck Earth, I am sick and tired of going and looking around this place, I just want to go and check some other spots? Or were you pretty firm about, I want to check at least as much of the Earth as I can, get to a certain point? What was really keeping you from going to the moon before you went and did your grind?
The easiness of the checks, more or less. Dwarf Castle is a quick 2-for-1. I have the tower key from, I think, the Water Hag at Leviathan, which would be another quick 2 checks. Even if they didn't ultimately pan out, they're relatively easy checks and not too time-consuming. Plus, you get 2 of them.
Always fair. And how did you feel about seeing the defeat the queen at the Town of Monsters objective when you started the siege? And how did you feel about defeating the queen of the Town of Monsters when you saw the boss?
It was definitely a nice weight off my shoulders as soon as I saw the nice Baron guards sitting right there. Any of those Feymarch objectives can all too easily be rough, so finding a nice free fight there is always nice.
That is definitely a feeling I can sympathize with, because I imagine you would have had a very different seed if there was something like Wyvern or Ogre Pogo in that spot.
Yeah, 100%.
Oh, Maggie, do you have any further questions?
No, don't think so. Thank you for having me here.
Absolutely. GG on your finish, and good luck on the rest of your group matches with the rest of the Doom Train group.
Thank you very much. Good luck to you guys as well.
Do you have those scheduled, or are you still working out the exact timing details for some of them?
Working at exact times with a couple people. I know I haven't gotten in touch with, I think, Botwin yet, but
Entirely fair. Entirely fair. That is definitely... We're only 2 days into the tournament, but you've got to win, so congratulations, and we're looking forward to seeing you in your future races.
Thank you very much.
And in the meantime, Gambit has finished in second place with a time of 1 hour, 19 minutes, and 25 seconds. We'll see if we can be joined by him, and here he is now joining us. GG's Gambit, how did you feel about just how the end of that siege played out?
Well, I would have felt a lot better if I had not messed up my demishing grind and not got nuked for Palom, but otherwise it went pretty okay. I think what got to me more was not being able to one-stop Feymarch. That really, I think, is what cost me.
That, you're not wrong about that. xPankraz was able to, I believe xPankraz had an hourglass in his inventory or something to enable him to get through those fights better than you're able to in his first stop to Feymarch. So that is one point you're correct. That did go and cost you some time. If it makes you feel better, you're also not the only one who undershot their D machines and ended up with a level 49 Palom.
That's good to know, but it's just one of those. I was going to go get some, just take the random encounters on the moon, try to see if I pump them up to get nuke, and I hit level 50 and got medial and realized I still need 2 more levels. Yeah, no, this ain't happening. Let's just go. We'll go without nuke.
That's entirely fair, and you did go and make it work. You were able to squeeze out enough damage and get through that fight with your mostly on the backs of your melee fighters. So GG's for that. That is a scary fight to go into without a dedicated white mage who can stand up and survive Big Bang, unlike Tella.
Yeah, I think next time I need to remember to check the moon dice before I go grind, because Rosa would have been nice.
That's
I would have dropped Palom for Rosa all day, every day.
That is not that is entirely understandable. That is something I can see being very desirable with you have 2 pretty solid melee fighters, 2 well-equipped ones like your Edge and Kane. How did you feel when you went and found that Edge on Mount Hobbs and that Kane in Baron Inn?
I was super happy. Seeing the Edge, I was worried about the squishiness of the party with 2 Tellas, an Edward, and a Palom. I was like, this is a very squishy party. Then I saw that Edge, I was like, oh, never mind, we're fine. And then getting the Masamune from the backside of Hobbs, I was like, oh yeah, we're definitely fine.
Yeah, that was definitely a strong pickup. I believe. So here's the question that I just realized. What led you to completely skip Antlion?
I forgot.
The best play, Fade Antlion.
I completely forgot about it. I didn't even realize it until after I finished and not done, and I started looking at the spoiler log. I was like, Twin Heart, I never did Antlion, did I?
You're not alone in fading that check. It's the new meta play, honest.
Oh, that's it. I'll admit, I learned it from PK, and then I also, I hope PK was watching because I bought the carrot for him too, because we'd had a pre-race chat about that, and I told him I was going to do it if I found one, so hopefully he enjoyed that as well.
I love this community.
It's really hard to... It is a great thing to be part of. So after you found the Edge, I'm guessing that went and changed a lot of your plans for your early routing.
It did. Once I saw the Edge, I knew I had the power to get through Ordeals, but I wanted another character to replace second Tella. So that's why I went Baron in first. Saw the Kane, was very happy, and then immediately went Ordeals. Found the Gauntlet in the Crystal Room of Ordeals. Like, well, there could be worse places for it because at least this is free XP.
Yeah, that was definitely something that. If it was something other than the Magma Key, would you have considered going and bailing on that, or were you going to just say, no, I have Tella, if I really want to have his spells, I will endure this gauntlet?
My thought was D Machine all the way, even if I had found Sirens, so I would have gone through it no matter what.
Hard to disagree with that sentiment. A question that I asked xPankraz, I'm curious to hear your take on. When you saw your objectives when you started the siege, how did you feel about them? Did you have a general plan for how you were expecting the siege to go, or just what were some of your thoughts when you saw those objectives?
My first thought was going to be either real jet or real troll, and it ended up being more of a jet and troll. Especially with that, I believe it was the starting Baron key, so it's like right off the bat you had access to Baron Castle, and then finding the Earth Crystal using the warp glitch. I was like, okay, yeah, this is going to be very, very jet.
Yeah, that and that darkness crystal being behind the required Baron Throne fight was that was your required Zeromus access. You're definitely going to be getting it when you completed your objectives. So
my fear was going to be a pass there, or even worse, like a pan that would have led to a pass or something else, some kind of chain. Because then it would have changed the planning of having to demachine to going to stealing sirens with edge. Because I never found sirens in the entire seed.
I don't believe your opponent saw them either. I think you actually found one siren that your opponent didn't, which was allowed you to get Quake on your Palom. That definitely went and shaped a fair bit of your early game.
Yeah, I believe I found that siren buried in the Watery Pass, and as soon as I got on the ground, I went and popped that siren immediately just to get Quake on the kid. It was like that way. My hope was to one stop Baron or one stop Feymarch, and again, just the Feymarch bosses ended up being there, weren't able to quite one shot him.
Yeah, that is definitely fair. I think your opponent had figured out a few more spots and had a bit more going on for him, so he was able to get through those fights with some different strategies than yours. But overall, this was a very nice, well-played race. It was a very jetty seed, it was a very quick seed, and it was a very stressful seed, unless I'm mistaken.
Yeah, I felt good fading the Sheila checks. I wish I had been a little more keen to fade Fabul completely, since it ended up not being required at all. And what really pushed me to not check the Moon character and not find that unfortunate Rosa was finding Cure 3s in Silvera. As soon as I saw those, I was like, Cure 3s in an overworld shop usually means no white mage anywhere in the seed. So let's go ahead and stock up while I'm here and just take that to the bank and see what happens.
Hey, that's time you can go and... Considering you'd have to go to the moon, check the character, come back to the earth in front of Baron, and then redo the... excuse me, you did not do that grind manipulate. You went with the vanilla grind manipulate, went for just getting it in 1 or 2 fights.
Yeah, I tend to be team brute force when it comes to the D machine. Even though I was getting a little antsy and started to say, okay, I've still got hourglasses in my inventory. I may just hourglass the next fight, see what step I'm on, and then go from there. But thankfully, when I thought that, I got the fight in the next one. I was like, all right, we're good.
That's an entirely fair strategy. Well, you have got a couple more matches for you in your group. Have you been able to get them scheduled, or are you still going to work out some of the details?
I've got one scheduled already for this upcoming Saturday, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. It's at 10 p.m. Eastern Time. And then the other one I'm still waiting to hear from my last opponent. I've not heard back from yet to try to schedule.
Well, it looks like we have something to look forward to this Saturday at 10 p.m. Eastern. So, looking forward to your next race. Maggie, do you have any questions before we cut?
Thanks.
No, I was just going to say, I think you covered it all, Baka. Thank you so much for joining us, Gambit, and for being featured today.
Thank you guys for helping put on the show, and Venerable for doing the restream, Stone Dingley for doing tracking, Baka, you and Maggie for doing commentary. I appreciate it. I look forward to going back and watching the race and seeing exactly how close it was.
It was a great race to see, a great race to commentate. Thank you for letting us show your race.
All right, have a good night, guys.
Thank you. You too.
Thanks, Gambit. And it looks like right now we are going to be heading over to Justin MDP. Later tonight, there are 2 more Threemus Zone races on Randomania. You can catch a race at 7:30 Eastern Time tonight. And right back here on the Free Enterprise channel, there will be another race at 9 p.m. And of course, keep an eye on our Discord for the full schedule for the rest of this week and the rest of this tournament. Baka, any last questions or any last comments?
I think we've had a great race today. This is only the second day of the Zema Zone, and I am excited to see more. I hope our viewers are as excited to go and see what comes up in Randomania. Comes up on Randomania in 45 minutes. So let's go and check that out when we can.
Have a great afternoon, everyone.
Good night.